This is just going to be a quick update. Today is Sunday, so we are heading into the new week, and I just want to go over what has happened since my last video. Now, if you just looked at the thumbnail and the title of my last video, then you'd think that I wasn't expecting this at all. Like, oh wow, this caught me completely off guard, and I'm completely wrecked from this. That was not the case. I was planning for both scenarios, and I did mention that for a long time, this scenario seemed more likely than us continuing with an uptrend here. There were a lot of signs of that. But despite that, I was looking at both possibilities, and I was looking at the possibility of us continuing an uptrend here. Now, that is not the scenario which happened, but the scenario that did happen is something that I prepared for. I was ready for this scenario, and it actually played out more perfectly than I could have hoped for. So what happened since my last video? Well, we broke the 4-hour uptrend that we were in, the uptrend that we began once we broke this last lower high in the downtrend from the high. We broke that with a bullish close, although a very weak one. That's something I mentioned in my videos. Then we put in a higher low here, and then we SFP'd that market structure point. That is not a break in market structure, that's not continuation. In fact, a lot of times this is a sign that the trend is going to reverse and that you will make a run for this low, potentially SFPing it, or maybe breaking the low and breaking the uptrend. And if we go to the 4-hour time frame, you can see what happened when we came down to that low. Well, on the 4-hour, we closed a candle below it. And yeah, not a very strong close below. We did get a pretty big buyback wick here, but the candle was not able to close above this low. And let me check if it closed above this low. So it did wick this low, but that doesn't necessarily matter. We are looking at this low because this is the market structure point. And on the 4-hour, we closed below it. And regardless of that close, we then came down pretty quickly, 3 4-hour candles later, to close below that wick. So clearly this was a break in structure. And if you watched my last video, I did get into a short after we broke structure here. Let me go back and see if I can find it. So yeah, I actually entered as soon as that 4-hour candle broke. So this was the move that on the 4-hour came down to break structure. And once we got that 4-hour close, I immediately started following low time frame structure. And on the 5-minute, we clearly had a downtrend here, with this being the last lower high. And there was a zone here where price ranged a little bit before it got that drop. This was a place I was interested in. As price approached that level, we formed an uptrend, which we broke when we formed this higher low and then SFP'd that last market structure point. So this right here, followed by the bearish break in market structure, is what got me into this trade. I waited for multiple confirmations at a level that I was interested in. So as soon as we broke structure bearishly on the high time frames, I was looking for short opportunities. And from there, we immediately dumped down to the low of the larger range, which I am not surprised by either. Maybe I'm a little surprised at how perfectly we got to move right down to there, but I was expecting us to, probably get a sharp move down if we could not hold this uptrend. It was kind of the last hope for us not to get a move down to, fill this inefficiency, to revisit the low of the larger range that we've been trading in. And yeah, we basically did so immediately after breaking structure. So that short was a very good trade. I don't think I talked about my take profits yet, but I had a take profit set down at this low. I also had one front running this box here. So, I hit my 2 TPs there, and then I exited the rest of the trade once price started wicking away from here. SFPing the range low was my confirmation to get out of the trade. My main target for that trade had already been hit. So this wasn't even a swing trade. This was a scalp that turned into a swing trade. I was basing it off of, swing confirmations, I guess you could say. But yeah, especially when I enter a, swing trade with a scalp entry, I'm much more willing to take profits at my final target. I'm not just going to try and let this thing ride and hope we continue dumping here, although we could continue dumping here. Those are the kind of trades that, I will take the whole thing out if we meet the target and then do something that gives me a reason to want to exit the trade. A SFP of this low, the big wick that we got afterwards, that was enough for me to want to exit. So I did. And I closed the trade with about 15% profits, 1% being what I risked on the trade. So that was, one of the best trades I've had in a long time. I haven't had any 15% gainers in this area. The price action was just way too choppy. A lot of my trades were scalps in and outs or losses because I did get chopped up a good amount in this range, I'm not going to lie. So now let's talk about what could happen next from here. And something to note is that this price action that's going on in this range relates to weekly structure. So it is very significant, I would say. And weekly structure looks like this. We had a downtrend from the highs, and we broke that bullishly when we closed above this high here. We originally wicked it, but then we came up to close above it later and put in this higher high in the weekly structure. Then we got a retracement, put in a higher low before coming back up to the high. But what happened up here is we wicked the high. We SFP'd it, and that is a reason to call the weekly structure bearish. Although we're still in an uptrend, that can make you view weekly structure as bearish if you're not able to get a candle above those wicks to close. And then from those SFPs, we got a move back down to that weekly high or low. And so far we have wicked it. And today is Sunday, so the weekly candle will close in about 3 hours from when I'm recording this. And if it closes as an SFP, then that would be something significant as well. That would, potentially give a reason to consider the weekly structure bullish again. So that is something important to note. Now, let's go to the lower time frames, because what would make this a bit more bullish, a bit more confident, I would say, is if we could have a low time frame, or I should say high time frame, but lower than the weekly. If we can have a 4-hour market structure break after we SFP the weekly low, that would give a lot more confidence to the idea. But right now, the 4-hour structure is, very strange. It's in an unfortunate place if we're not able to come back down to take out this low. Because, 4-hour structure, we know that this was the last 4-hour high or low before we broke the uptrend, put in a higher high here technically, but it was an SFP, and then we came down to break structure and immediately got a move down. So I would not call any of these wicks here structure. This is just one leg in structure. So that means that right now, if price wants to break structure bullishly, it has to get a move all the way back up here to close a 4-hour candle. And that would put Bitcoin back at the highs of the range. So not an ideal place to have a market structure point. So that being said, I hope that Bitcoin is able to get one more move down towards these lows to make a market structure point that's much closer to price that will make for a break much sooner. And right now, the 4-hour internal higher low is very strange. So, right here I have marked out the 1-hour high of this range after we put in this low. You can't even really call it internal structure because this is just such a fast move to the upside. It's more like the range high. So price on the 1-hour got to move down and then came back up, wicked back up, closed its candle here, and then put in this high of the range. So from the low, this is the highest point, at least on the 1-hour. But on the 4-hour, all of that happened inside of this 4-hour candle. So this 4-hour candle closed after this high was put in. It closed right here, and then it got a wick up to put in this 4-hour range high. And both of these are not very good places to have a lower high in high time frame structure. So like if price got to move down now to close below, or even just wick this low, it can be an SFP. It doesn't matter as long as we take out the low. If it came down now, that would leave a lot of question as to where the lower high is. So we don't have any good looking highs here. So if I could choose a scenario, I'd say I'd want price to get a move up before taking out the low, maybe take out this 1-hour high just to establish this as the lower high clearly, and then get a move down to SFP the low and then break structure. And if this happens, like if we get a move up now, that means we will close that weekly candle as an SFP. From there, we can get a move down to SFP this low within the next week and basically just wick the low again on the weekly. So I'd say that this right here is my ideal scenario, and that would give pretty good reason for us to, get another rotation back to the high end of this range and potentially make a run at this high to maybe even close above it on the weekly and continue the weekly structure bullish. But like I said, that is my ideal scenario. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I do think this idea makes a lot of sense. I do think it makes a lot of sense for us to continue trading in this range now. But obviously, if price gets a move down and closes below that low on any significant time frame, then we could, potentially retrace a lot more. That'd mean we'd be losing this range bearishly. And yeah, that could make us come all the way back down to this low, if I'm being honest. And there's not really too much else to talk about right now. I'm not really trading too much in terms of, actually taking thought out plans. I am trading a lot, and that is because I've been working on a video. I think it's a fun idea. It should be a cool video, but it is taking a long time. It's one of the, most high effort videos I've done, at least in terms of production. Maybe not in terms of the content of the video, but yeah, I've been working on a video and I've been taking a lot of trades, and hopefully that video will be up early this week. I'll give you a little sneak peek of that now, but that's all you're getting. But anyways, that's all I wanted to talk about. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.